We all know the story of David and Goliath. It is the greatest underdog tale ever told. A boy, armed with nothing but 5 smooth stones and sheer faith, defeats a towering, armored giant. That is the moment where David's legend begins. But have you ever stopped to wonder who stood with David after that moment? Who were the men who fought the hundreds of battles he didn't win with a slingshot? Who were the human shields, the secret assassins, the quiet giants who made David's kingdom possible? When we speak of heroes, we almost always speak of the leader. But every great leader is held up by a few loyal, terrifying, and utterly legendary people whose names have been lost to the roar of the crowd. Today, we are going to tell the stories of those forgotten few. We are going to open a little scroll buried deep in the book of Samuel, and we are going to meet the Shekinah Ha-Gibborim, the mighty men. These weren't just soldiers, they were the SEAL Team 6 of the ancient world. David had a corps of 30 elite warriors, but among them were 3 who were legendary above all the rest, and a 4th who redefined what it meant to be unstoppable. Are you ready to meet the men whose swords were fused to their hands, who killed giants with their bare fists, and who fought lions in snowy pits? 1. Josheb-Basshebeth, the day of the 800. Our first hero is Josheb-Basshebeth, also known as Adino the Eznite. He was the chief among the 3, the unquestioned leader of David's champions. Imagine the greatest warrior of your era, the one man whose name strikes fear into the heart of every enemy general. That was Josheb-Basshebeth. But unlike the famous generals we read about, his great story is distilled into one chillingly simple line. He lifted up his spear against 800 men whom he slew at one time. 800, not 8, not 80. 800 warriors, all slain in a single day, in a single prolonged action. We aren't given the details of this battle. We don't know the name of the valley, the political stakes, or the strategic goal. All we are given is the outcome and the implied terror that Josheb must have unleashed. The word used here for slew implies a relentless, continuous action. This wasn't a skirmish, it was a massacre driven by pure necessity. Think about the physical impossibility of it, the need for water, the exhaustion, the loss of blood, the constantly shifting balance of 800 individual fights happening around him. His shield would have been shattered, his armor pierced, his breath coming in ragged, desperate gasps. Yet, he stood. He was the whirlwind in the eye of the storm. Josheb-Basshebeth was not fighting for glory. He was fighting because he was the wall. If he took one step back, the battle was lost. If his spear arm faltered for a moment, the enemy would flood the breach. He embodied the definition of a champion, a man who, when the army breaks and runs, looks out at the overwhelming tide of the enemy and decides that he is enough. His entire legacy is one single, impossible act of defiance, reminding everyone who served David, this is the standard, this is what loyalty looks like. 2. Eleazar, the man with the clinging sword. Our next hero, Eleazar, son of Dodo, fought a battle that tells us more about human endurance and sheer will than any other story in the Bible. The armies of the Philistines gathered against Israel. It was a massive force, and the battle took place in a field of barley. When the fighting began, it was clear that Israel was losing. The soldiers, perhaps poorly trained or simply overwhelmed by the Philistine numbers, began to break ranks and run. They fled in terror, abandoning their positions and leaving the battlefield wide open. But not Eleazar. He stayed. The text simply says, the men of Israel were gone away, but he stood and smote the Philistines until his hand was weary and his hand clave unto the sword. Imagine the sound of the entire army's retreat, the panic, the cries of the wounded, the distant shouts of their commanders urging them back, and amidst it all, the solitary, desperate clang of Eleazar's sword hitting enemy steel. He was completely alone, fighting not for victory, but simply for the next second, and the second after that. He swung and hacked and pushed, until his arm muscles became knotted and exhausted. The blood of the Philistines mingled with his own sweat, and the dust of the field dried onto the hilt of his sword. He fought so fiercely for so long that when the fighting finally subsided and the day was won because Eleazar unbelievably had driven the enemy back single-handedly, he couldn't open his hand. It was clenched so tightly around the hilt, frozen by rigor, dried blood, and muscle fatigue, that his comrades had to pry the sword away from his fist. The sword was literally cleaved to him. This is a story about refusal. Eleazar refused to retreat. He refused to yield. He refused to surrender the field. His fight wasn't just a physical contest. It was an act of pure, unadulterated will. He fought until the line between the warrior and the weapon dissolved, until his sword became an extension of his soul. 3. Shammah, the protector of the lentil field. This third story is perhaps the most profound, because the object of the battle is so seemingly small, a field of lentils. Shammah, the son of Agi the Hararite, saw the Philistines gather at a specific location that contained a patch of ground covered with lentil plants. Again, the text records the same humiliating action. The army of Israel fled from the Philistines. Why did they run? The Philistines were fearsome. But the true shame here is that the soldiers deemed a lentil field not worth dying for. Lentils, or beans, were the food of the common people. They were sustenance, not treasure. Most men decided their lives were worth more than a few bushels of beans. But Shammah did not. While the entire army retreated, he went and stood in the middle of that field, alone. But he stood in the middle of the plot and defended it and struck down the Philistines. Why? Because Shammah understood that the value of the field wasn't in its market price, it was in what it represented. That field fed his people. It was a source of life in a harsh land. To surrender it was not merely to lose a crop, it was to surrender hope, to surrender the ability of the common farmer to feed his family. It was to surrender the spirit of the people. Shammah's battle wasn't fought for a king's gold or a city wall. It was fought for the very survival and dignity of the poorest among them. He stood in that small, overlooked patch of dirt and made it a holy ground, staining the lentils red with the blood of the enemy. The Philistines were routed, and the text concludes with the final, quiet truth. And the Lord brought about a great victory. It was a victory won not by the main army, but by one man who understood that true heroism is often found in the small, forgotten battles fought for the things that truly matter. These are David's champions. These are the forgotten names that truly define heroism. They teach us that there are many ways to be a hero. You can be the whirlwind that cuts down 800 men. You can be the man of pure endurance whose commitment fuses the tool to his hand. You can be the one who refuses to budge from a lentil field because you understand the true value of what you're guarding. The stories of David's mighty men remind us that a leader is nothing without the fierce, quiet loyalty of those who believe in the cause. Their names may be buried in a single chapter of a larger book, but their actions echo across history, challenging us to ask, what small, critical ground are you refusing to abandon? What are you fighting for when everyone else has run away? And what impossible feat can your unwavering commitment accomplish today? The real legends are the ones whose work is often unseen, but whose victory is absolutely essential.